And I've been inspired by the courage and resilience of Californians, health workers, teachers, parents, and kids. You came together, and now you're coming back stronger than ever. As your governor, I promise you, whatever challenges come our way, I will always lead the California way.
California. Oh yes, the Golden State. It became a state of the United States in 1850. Prior to that, Native peoples were living in California starting around 10,000 years ago. No, California was not founded by blonde Viking surfers, though for a period of time, it kind of appeared that way. Then, after conquering the native peoples of Mexico, the Spanish took over, setting up the mission system that still exists to this day, not providing church services, rather selling trinkets and t-shirts. Then the Mexicans got their country back from Spain in 1821, and then we had a fight with Mexico in 1848 and got the whole southwestern territory from them that included California. So much fighting, but such is life. And in 1848, gold was discovered in the Golden State. Things just went nuts. Thousands of people from across the United States and the world moved to California, and they figured out how golden the Golden State truly was. Then people from New York figured out that California is a great place to make movies, and the entertainment business took off here. People in the entertainment business like the weather, the oranges, and all the beautiful people in California. California just kept growing and growing and growing, with people from around the world coming to California to make it in the entertainment business. The schools and universities became great. The defense industry flourished. Then there was the next big thing, tech. Tech, including the internet, was born in California, and boy, did that baby grow into a monster. California over the years became known for its music and progressive culture, its environmentalism, and its support of the gay lifestyle. California was multicultural and hip, a foodie paradise. Its wines became famous around the world, and California was surfing, and it created the surf industry. California started as the Golden State and continued as the Golden State, and then over the last 15 years, it has turned to shit. Golden only in that you can find golden urine all over the streets. Not so golden anymore, more like golden brown. Because with the gold comes a nice side of feces. It is now urine and crap and vomit and crazy traffic and tons of illegal aliens and failing schools and a failing economy and government corruption. It literally is falling off the cliff. It seems kind of difficult to place this colossal clusterfuck on the head of one person. But in this case, it's kind of easy. This is the fault of Gavin Newsom, or as he is better known, Gavin Newsom. California still is a beautiful place when the people are cleared out and still has opportunity for tech and finance. But the reality is people are leaving. They can't take it anymore. I was born in California, raised in California, went to college in California, started a family in California, worked in California. I basically have done it all in California. I've surfed, I've made surfboards, I did all the great things in California. But me, like everybody else, done. I bought in Florida. I split my time now between California, Missouri, and Florida. I'm done. I, like a lot of other people, we're finished. It's over. California is run by deranged people. The mayor of LA, Karen Bass, is a communist, and she and Newsom have millions of followers. It's like somebody put something in the water here to mess people up. It's sad for me because I truly love California, but I can't love it anymore. I have my kids, I tell them, California is not going to work out for you. Find another state. But it's really bad, and it's really sad. I was born in Los Angeles in the 60s. I was actually born on Sunset Boulevard. I grew up in Los Angeles. We started El Monte because we were super poor. My dad worked as a grocery clerk, and that's all we could afford. Then he got a job at Mattel, and we moved to the suburbs to Laverne, and we lived in the track house. So we were not a rich family, but somehow we had kind of an okay life. Then ultimately, he got a job that placed him in Santa Barbara. So I spent my junior high and high school years in Santa Barbara, not the rich Santa Barbara, not the Oprah Santa Barbara, but the kind of regular Santa Barbara. That's where I grew up. My grandmother lived in Arcadia, and we would visit her often. She lived in a very old house in a neighborhood that ultimately became mansionized. But at the time, it was a chill old house with a kumquat tree and orange trees and avocado trees and all that. My grandfather worked as a store clerk, so he could afford a house like that back in the day. And that's where we spent a lot of time. Back in the 60s, 70s, Arcadia was very smoggy. We would have smog alerts. You couldn't go outside, things like that. But eventually, people figured out what that was, tailpipe emissions, and, put in catalytic converters and things like that. And LA air got kind of okay. But in Santa Barbara, the air was fresh. Spent a lot of my time surfing. I would say I was kind of living the California dream. And growing up, I figured that, well, just like a lot of people, I would go to college, and I ended up in San Diego because I like to surf, get married, and have kids and all that. And I saw California still as a place, a possibility. But I would say that Santa Barbara, it's pretty radically different from LA. When I would visit LA and see all the traffic and the people look kind of sad and distressed, I reasoned that there was a lot of different Californias for a lot of different people. But my California seemed again like, okay, this is a great place. There's sunshine all the time. I could go surfing, I could go skiing, I could do all those kinds of things. And it seemed kind of okay. But as I got older, I started to see all the cracks. I'm a white guy, and I started to see that, well, me being a white male, California's pretty Latino, fluent in Spanish, so I was okay with that. But I started to see that I kind of wasn't welcome in certain environments, especially in the job environment. I saw that me being kind of the white male applying for jobs worked against me, which was very odd for me. I didn't really understand that. But I worked it out. I worked things out. I got a job. I worked in healthcare. I saved up some money. Like a lot of people, got some money from family for down payment. And of all things, I moved to the Palisades with my young family. We found the cheapest house in the area. At the time, I think it was $300,000 in 1996. And we moved there, and that's kind of where my kids grew up. So that's obviously rich LA. So rich LA and poor LA and rich California and poor California, those are two different worlds. In rich California, what you end up being is a big donor to the state. A lot of your income goes to paying taxes. So then you feel like you got ahead, but now you're kind of losing steam, and eventually you're not saving any money. So you hustle to find other ways to make income, buy a property, try to flip it, things like that, which for a while worked, but then stopped working. And then again, doing anything in California that involves the local government or state government and all the regulations and things like that, it makes it so that it's not worth it. I'm also kind of an environmental guy because I'm a surfer. I don't like a dirty ocean. I saw that LA has a river. The river goes out to sea and makes it dirty. So I decided I want to help do something about that. The LA River, more like a sewer, and that sewer goes out to the ocean. So I got involved in trying to turn it back into a river, which I did. It took a really long time. And the amount of government nonsense that I and others had to go through to make that happen is beyond comprehension. I also was a commuter. It wasn't unusual for me to experience commutes. Going from the Palisades, I worked in East LA. Sometimes it would take me, it was 24 miles. It would take me 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get home. That was kind of typical. One day I even decided to ride my bike, which you can't really ride bikes in LA because it's not bike friendly, but I tried it anyway. And I actually got to work faster on my bike than it took me in a car. I began burning out on LA. And like a lot of fools in LA, I wrote a bunch of screenplays because I think, well, I kind of live around these people. Maybe they'll buy one of my screenplays, but that's not how Hollywood works. I try a variety of different things to sort of afford a normal life in LA, especially with kids. Kids in LA in a decent neighborhood during my parent years, you got to make $300,000 in order to do that. That it really kind of works. California dream that I grew up with, faded quickly. So I started sniffing around for other places to potentially live. I discovered that Florida was, in terms of property prices, was like California back in the day. And so I bought a house in Florida thinking that, well, maybe I'll end up in retirement there. But I stuck it out in California, just trying to hope that it would work. But then it turned into what I felt like a daily assault on my psyche. Living in California with all the BS that Gavin Newsom was coming up with, especially during COVID. COVID was an absolute nightmare. The dude actually closed the beaches. That's how insane he is. I started looking for ways out. I thought the problem was LA. So then I bought a place in the desert, trying to get out of the whole LA metro area, figure that things would be free and easy in Riverside County. But then I got hit with the most surreal mental penalty of my life. And with that, I knew it was over. I bought this property 5 years ago, when interest rates were reasonable, because I wanted to get out of LA. LA had become crazy with all the regulations, the taxes, the traffic. And so I thought, well, I'm going to come out here to Riverside County. It's going to be more free and easy out here. And, it's going to be, a better life. Because I felt that they were going to, quote unquote, leave me alone and just allow me to live here. The property is a house, as you can see, and included 3 trailers. The lady who owned it before me, she was renting the house. She was renting she had Volkswagen vans, like this Volkswagen van that you could come and sleep. You could come and sleep in it for $80 a night or whatever. Have that experience. Have a true desert kind of experience here. She was renting the trailers as well as part of her Airbnb thing, and so I took over the property, and there was some income. She was making some money, that's for sure. And I was near retirement age, and I figured, well, I'll just continue doing what she was doing. She didn't tell me that perhaps there were some problems in terms of ordinance. I did the Airbnb activities for a while, and then I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. It's too much of a hassle. That there's a major housing shortage in California. So I had the trailers. I had these 3 trailers, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to do regular rentals with the trailers, and that's what I'm going to do, because I didn't want to do Airbnb anymore. So I took my Airbnb calendar and I blocked it all out, and I stopped doing the Airbnb. About 6 months after I did that, I started doing the rentals. I received a lawsuit from the county at my doorstep, and I was being sued doing illegal Airbnb rentals. I was kind of confused by that because I had stopped and I was no longer doing the rentals. I contacted them, figured out what's going on. They said I'm doing illegal Airbnb rentals and that I need to stop. I said, well, that's easy because I've already stopped. They said, okay, well, you already stopped. That's okay. But here's the problem for you. Every day that you had, and at that point my permit had already lapsed because I wasn't doing the rentals anymore, so I didn't need the permit. I'd already stopped doing Airbnb. My permit had ended, and I told them I'm no longer doing the rentals. I'm done with that. My calendar is blocked, and that should be the end of the story. They said, well, here's the problem. Your listing is still up
on Airbnb. And I said, yeah, it's up, but it's blocked. I'm not allowing anybody to rent here anymore. So what's the problem here? Well, every day that you had it up, every day that you had your rental up, you're getting fined $1,000 a day because you're renting it without a permit. And even if you had a permit, you're not legally allowed. You're not allowed to rent the trailers. So we're going to fine you $1,000 a day for you having your listing up, and we don't care if you're renting it or not. So at that point, they had tallied a bill for me, $167,000. They said I owed $167,000 for all those days that my listing was up. They counted it for each trailer. I had 2.5 years of back and forth with them about this whole issue, ultimately landing in court. I decided, at first I had a lawyer, which cost me money. Then I decided to self-represent. And in the end, we went to court. And here was the main issue. The issue is that they had never given me notice that I was in violation of anything. They had never posted it, had never sent me a letter, never sent me an email, never done any of those things. I found out this is a big racket. What they do is that they hire a company that goes and scours the internet to see if somebody has an Airbnb listing up, has an Airbnb listing up, and whether or not they have a permit. So that's what they do. A lot of counties in California do this, and then they go and then they fine the hell out of you, and they try to get what they can out of you, right? So it's basically government seizure. It's government seizure of private property is the business they got into. I thought Riverside County would be mellow, wouldn't be as crazy as LA County and all the shenanigans they do, but it turns out Riverside County ended up being much worse. So I won my case because they didn't do the proper filing, etc. And then they wouldn't listen to any logic of nobody's renting. I provided receipts that I had no guests during that time. They didn't care. They just want to get me on the technicality of my property being still listed on Airbnb, even though people were not able to book it. So that's my California story. That's the one that actually made me leave California, because it was just insane. Pure insanity. That's what we're dealing with here in California now. Bureaucratic, almost criminal kind of level, almost a criminal level of bureaucracy, where the government is no longer serves the people, the government serves itself. And then they told me that I wasn't able to rent my trailers, not Airbnb, but I could not do regular rental of my trailers either. So, the county needs, this Riverside County needs places for people to live. People would be very happy to live in that trailer. The county doesn't want that to happen because of over-regulation. They consider a trailer, like a nice Airstream trailer, to be a recreational vehicle. And for a lot of people, it would be a home, a place for them to live. But the county doesn't want that.
Gavin Newsom was born October 10th, 1967 in San Francisco. He is the 40th governor of California, serving since January 2019. He was previously mayor of San Francisco from 2004 to 2011, and lieutenant governor from 2011 to 2019. Gavin Newsom comes from a very politically influential family. His father was lawyer to the Gettys and later served as the trustee of their estate. Gavin Newsom grew up with Gordon Getty, one of J. Paul Getty's sons. One must remember that at one point in time, J. Paul Getty was the richest man in the world. Nancy Pelosi is his aunt by marriage. His family was deeply tied to former California Governor Pat Brown and later his son Jerry Brown, another California governor for many years. The Newsoms, the Browns, and the Gettys were essentially California's royal families. Newsom, running for president now, has asserted lately that he grew up poor. That is simply laughable. Newsom's parents, William and Tessa Thomas, divorced when he was 3. Tessa worked at a variety of jobs after the divorce. I believe that Newsom's father left because young Gavin spent so much time in front of the mirror playing with his hair, it simply drove him crazy. Young Gavin was determined to have a learning issue, starting at a very early age. He was diagnosed with dyslexia, but medical historians are now looking back at that and have concluded that was a wrong diagnosis. The correct diagnosis was mental retardation. Before Newsom began his political career, he was a businessman. He received his funding from Gordon Getty. He opened restaurants and had a winery under the Plump Jack name, which continues to this day. Gavin Newsom is rich, people. Millions and millions rich. Gavin Newsom began his political career being appointed to the City of San Francisco Parking Commission by longtime family friend Mayor Willie Brown, Kamala Harris's mentor. In 2001, Gavin Newsom married Kimberly Guilfoyle, a former prosecutor and political analyst on a variety of TV shows. She was later into a relationship with Donald Trump Jr. Yeah, she's the one who looks like she should sue her plastic surgeon. Newsom was elected mayor of San Francisco in 2004, but the dirty boy just couldn't keep it in his pants. In 2005, it was determined he was having an affair with his campaign manager, Alex Tork's wife, Ruby Tork. He blamed the incident on his abuse of alcohol. What do they say? Don't get high on your own supply? I guess he had too much of his Plump Jack wine. Newsom left the mayor's office and became lieutenant governor from 2011 to 2019 under his pal Jerry Brown. Gavin Newsom began his reign of terror as governor in 2019. Him becoming governor was pretty much a slam dunk. While he's been governor, Gavin Newsom has just gotten richer and richer and richer. While his money is being held in a holding company, as he is governor, he somehow keeps buying expensive real estate. His most recent purchase was a $10 million home near San Francisco. That boy has more LLCs than the Biden family. Newsom has played all kinds of money games since he's been in office. But heck, who's going to catch him? It's a Democrat state, and he's from an elite family. One of his biggest scandals as governor early in his governor career was to create an emergency declaration to acquire N95 masks. Instead of choosing a domestic manufacturer, he chose Chinese company BYD. They had never made masks before. Why did he choose BYD? Well, he knew several investors in BYD, including Warren Buffett. COVID really did make him power crazy. That's when his true tyranny began. We saw his true elitist, rules for thee, not for me, stance on many things. Y'all remember his French Laundry restaurant scandal? He went crazy with environmental initiatives as well, wanting everything to be solar. But it turns out that China makes all the solar panels. I wonder why he cleaned up San Francisco when President Xi showed up for a visit. And I just wonder how many greenbacks he's getting from his Green New Scam. New Scam. Heck, that's another name for him to go along with Newsco.
The governor's doing nothing, and Gavin Newsom.
We're going to help the people in California. We did help them a lot in Los Angeles, a lot with the early in my term when they had some problems. But we would love to do it. I will say this, if I were a Democrat governor or whatever, I would call up Trump. I'd say, come on in, make us look good, because we're cutting crime down to nothing. And we're taking people out, career criminals who are only going to do bad things, and we're bringing them back to their countries. We're cutting illegal aliens off welfare and other government benefits, and I have directed that starting immediately, There will be no more payments to sanctuary cities because they are really just sanctuaries for criminals. They're really protecting criminals, and those are the ones we have to get out of the country: murderers, drug dealers.
Newsom wants solar and wind, but he forgot that California has one of the worst electrical grid systems in the entire country. And meanwhile, all the petroleum manufacturers, refiners who used to call California home, they all left because they don't want to put up with his green nonsense. The other thing that Newsom is fond of is crime and drug use. He's basically legalized drugs in California and also legalized crime. That boy also loves abortion. In California, you can have an abortion up to the time of delivery. He has destroyed our public school system. California now ranks near the bottom in public schools. This has a lot to do with his love of teachers' unions, because the teachers in the teachers' union, they don't like to work. They don't like to work, and the students take their lead. And my God, the homeless situation. Billions and billions have been spent on the homeless. No one knows where those billions have been spent. And clearly, the homeless problem has not been fixed. Newsom is responsible for the massive unemployment and welfare fraud that has gone on under his watch. And in Palisades and Altadena, because he neglected to spend money on brush management, maybe he's using that money for his own hairbrushes. Instead, he basically burned them to the ground. He also supports cashless bail and opposed Proposition 36 that sought to make crime a crime again. So under Newsom's watch, millions of people have left California. Millions of tax-paying people have left California. Thousands and thousands of major businesses have also left. He has basically ruined California. And now he wants to be your president. When America started, it was made up of different groups of people from different places. But in the end, they were Americans. When California started, it was made up of different groups of people from different places, but in the end, they were all Californians. But California, like America, is caught up in a very bizarre social experiment being run by globalists. Their goal is to get us to stop identifying as American or Californian and reduce us down to our ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, etc., and then have us fight it out. And after we're done fighting it out, they'll take over and they'll say, guess what? You now belong to the world government. You're a global citizen. It wasn't too long ago that the defense industry was a major employer in California, especially Southern California. Companies like Lockheed, McDonnell Douglas, Raytheon employed hundreds of thousands of people in good-paying jobs. Those companies in the defense industry are basically gone. We used to make cars. We had Boeing. That's gone. We made tires. Firestone started in Southern California. There's basically no manufacturing left in California. And Gavin Newsom likes it like that. We are the home of the personal computer and the cell phone. We used to make those here. We don't anymore. And Gavin Newsom likes it like that. California was also king oil. We drilled for oil here with great success, and we refined oil. But guess what? All those refineries have basically left. Phillips, Mobil, all those are based out of California. Not anymore. They're gone because of environmental regulation. Gavin Newsom uses a lot of oil in his hair, but he doesn't want any oil in your car. Under Gavin Newsom's watch, the shipbuilding industry has also disappeared. Even though he looks like he could star in the Village People's In the Navy video, he doesn't like Navy shipyards. In the good old entertainment business, Hollywood, the thing that everybody moved to California for, and everybody involved in that industry decided they needed to be in a union. So they wanted higher and higher wages and residuals and all that, and they killed the entertainment business. There's barely any entertainment business left in California anymore. Most of that happens in other parts of the world and other parts of the United States, like Georgia. Even tourism is tanking here. There was a time when the Santa Monica Pier was the most photographed place in the world. Not anymore. And can you even imagine going to the Hollywood sign? the amount of homeless people you'd have to push your way through to even get close to it, people don't go to the Hollywood sign anymore. My prediction is in 20 years, there won't be a Hollywood sign. Under Gavin Newsom's watch, California has been reduced down to pot shops, NGOs for homeless and other services, and processing illegal aliens. Like I said, in the 90s, it still seemed possible to get a good job, buy a house, and have your kids go to public school, even in LA. That's long gone. There are no middle-class jobs left. You're either working in the service industry or you're some tech fat cat living in the Bay Area. That's what it's down to.
Newsom, since he's been in whatever you call it, office, has brought us nothing but rampant crime, acute homelessness, horrendous inflation. I mean, the industry I work in, the film industry, this used to be the mecca of filmdom. It is no more.
That's right.
And the tech industries have taken off, and many business and industries, they just left. They blew out of town because he's made it untenable for people to make a living here. I had a job where I had to film down the street in LA, one day filming. It was cheaper for me to fly the entire crew to Bulgaria, feed them, house them for 3 days, shoot, come back.
Wow.
That was more cost effective.
Okay, so let's start. Yeah, good, perfect, Russ. So, so I'm here with my uncle Russ, Aunt Rose, and cousin Eric, and you guys moved from California. Where were you in California?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
And Solvay.
And Solvay.
And Eureka. And how long ago was that?
4.5 years.
Almost 5 years.
And then you decided that you were going to leave California, where you've lived your whole life, right? Pretty much.
Born and raised.
Yeah. And then you said, we're going to leave, and why? Why are we going to leave? Why? What were the reasons why? And you can do one at a time.
I felt like it felt oppressive. The government was intruding more and more and more into our lives, and we had our nice little tiny town, 5,200 population, and we had our own rules and for development. It was a city, and the state stepped in and superseded everything and mandated that you had to allow high density housing, and they took away all of our zoning and codes and everything, and said even if your next door neighbor sold their house and a developer bought it and turned it into a high rise, that's okay. And so we thought, oh, okay, that's the final straw, and they're going to ruin our little downtown Solvang by allowing high density, low cost housing right on the main road, and that was the final straw.
So that became that the state asserted its state rights and said, we don't care what you...
No, they took over rights.
Yeah, I mean...
They never had that right in the past.
Oh, okay, so they didn't have that right, and so they decided, you know what?
Gavin Newsom took it over.
We're gonna create this bill or law in the state that says here's how it's going to go when it comes to housing in terms of zoning.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So that didn't exist before, but existed because of Gavin Newsom.
Yes.
And his people.
Yes.
And it was all cities, counties, general areas, whatever, it just overlaid everything, and the state mandated what would happen everywhere. And I can't live in a place like
This
that.
might be the thing that would happen in the Palisades too, right? It's like, okay, you had your community here,
We're going
but
to change it.
the state is like, no,
We know better.
Yeah.
no, we don't like that, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think what do you think their kind of ultimate goal is? If you were to say, first of all, do you think they have a mastered plan, so to speak, Newsom and all, to redo the state or to change?
I think it goes beyond that. I think there's a master plan to take over the entire United States, because the master plan is to have one government that's run on communist principles, and there'll be 5% of the people that are in charge of everything and make all the rules, and everybody else is a peon. And that's where California was going real fast.
They were turning it literally into a third world. city where we lived, and it just didn't feel like home anymore. And it's like we had to go because we didn't fit in anymore.
Let's say you, Eric, you've worked a lot sort of in the construction world and all that. You've dealt a lot with houses and things. And I think obviously at one point in time, if you bought a piece of land, it was your land to kind of do with whatever you wanted to within
regular rules.
Within reason, right?
And, yeah, the rules were made a long time ago.
Within reason. And so, but that seems to have changed quite a bit. What do you say, Eric?
I would say the biggest things that I noticed were the crime. Passing the resolutions where you can go into a store and steal $900 and it's absolutely not a crime.
Yeah.
And all you can do is publicly shame that person and kick them out of your store for the next time if they can't come in and steal, which is just absurd to me. And the way that they were trying to mandate everything to be electric, they banned gas in new homes so that I couldn't put natural gas in new homes, and they wanted everything to be electric. And then while I lived there, they were routinely, every time it was over 80 degrees, I think it was, or 90, and the wind would slightly blow, they would shut our power off, and up to 5 days. And I don't think anybody realizes how hard it is to deal with a 5-day power shut off. You know, all your food goes bad. If you have freezers like I did, I had freezers for bait and everything else, it all goes bad unless you could figure out a way to keep it up and running. So then everybody went and bought generators, so we just had a town full of generators and that happened a few times, and then Eureka finally got lucky due to a power plant was able to backfeed us electrical, so we avoided the rest of the shutoffs, whereas people 6 miles from me, that continued to happen for years. That was beyond belief, and the way that they were infilling. Eureka was very well known for the tallest building being 3 stories and very small town, and now all you see there now is tower cranes and 5-story buildings, and they're all low-income housing. Yeah. And they closed everything that I like to do. They closed almost all the fishing. They've closed everything is an interpretive trail now and catered to basically homelessness. And then they wondered how they got such a terrible homeless problem. There's literally a city of homeless that fought back against the government when they went in to clean it up with weapons and explosives and stuff. It was crazy. So those kinds of things just made it impossible. And it wasn't like, oh, crime got out of hand there for a while. They were actually catering to it. And so they didn't change any laws to make it any better. And, you know, and that's just the little localized day-to-day things that you see. Then the town has completely changed. And to me, it's not just a localized problem. It's a one world government problem.
I guess when we started, when we were all sort of humans living over here, and you wanted to go fishing, was the government telling you kind of what to do?
No, licensing and everything came up over time as it if you looked over the history of licensing, and then it wasn't enough that they charge you that, oh, well, we have to maintain stuff, so therefore we have to charge a fee. Well, then those fees double, triple, quadruple, and then, oh, well, that's only for this, so now you have to pay for this body of water, or you have to pay for this type of fish. They constantly think of a new way to charge you, you know, and then it went to cars. So in Northern California, then it was, oh, you were fishing for salmon and steelhead. Oh, well, that's a whole separate tag. Then it became a separate tag for steelhead or salmon. And you have to have a fishing license. And then you pay an enormous fee for salmon or steelhead. Then you couldn't drive your car in the forest anymore. You know, this land is our land, this land is your land, until the government wants money. Then you have to buy a pass to even park there. Then they close it and narrow everybody down to these little spaces so they didn't have to actually do their job, because their whole excuse for charging you hundreds of dollars to be able to go fishing was because they had such a huge area to maintain. Well, they don't, because they closed so many things that you're narrowed down to these little tiny areas, and everybody fishes in those little tiny areas. And then they say, oh, well, look, you overfished this because there were 300 fish caught in this one spot. It's like, it's because it's the only spot you're letting us fish. And there's so many examples like that you could give of insane leadership that has gone so far beyond the reach. And then you look at it and you go, oh, okay, well, all this extra money, things will get better. The money disappears.
Yeah.
The money absolutely disappears. The hatcheries are closing left and right. That was the only excuse for the salmon and steelhead, was because those two fish have hatcheries, and they were doing hatchery programs. There aren't any. I think there's 2 hatcheries left in California now.
He's got these like homosexual proclivities, and that he's
California says no to gay marriage, and it's like, no, I'm going to do it anyway. So why
was that
would
on
you do
his
that?
was that on his watch?
Yeah. As mayor of San Francisco.
Oh, okay, that's where.
That
Yeah.
went all the way to Supreme Court, right? That
Yes.
went all the way to Supreme Court. Yeah.
Yeah. No. What I said when the time came to try to recall him is that I said Californians are actually a lot more conservative than the rest of the country would think, and it's not just in pockets, but I think in like from a majority standpoint, because the 2 key things that we voted no on was the gay marriage.
You got shut down on the petty crime thing too, right? Wasn't that a proposition?
That was a proposition too, as far as I recall. It's like we wanted that fixed because we saw the error in our ways, or however that came to pass.
Right.
And then so we voted on it, and that's kind of never gone anywhere because it passed. And so we're in 26. So it was like, it was in one of the propositions of election year 24. It was just recent.
Right.
And that's gone effectively nowhere because they said, oh, finally, the proposition passed. Like California voters did move to amend the whole $900 or just under $1,000 rule. And we're going to be able to restore some law and order here. And nothing's really come of that. Nothing's come of that.
Because ultimately the AGs, the DAs are responsible for, like, you committed a crime, and then it gets brought to the DA, and they decide whether or not they're going to prosecute, right? So they can just say no. They can just say, no, I'm not going to do it or whatever.
I mean, Soros actually, he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity. That's my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's doing things that erode the fabric of civilization. Getting DAs elected who refuse to prosecute crime. That's part of the problem in San Francisco and LA and a bunch of other cities.
Newsom, he was part of the white tribe, so to speak, Getty and all that. And he got in prison, and now he's running with the Latin gang.
Yeah, he's running with the gangs that run the California prisons, which are the Mexicans.
And he'll trade between the gangs in prison. One night he's getting butted by some black dudes, then he's getting nutted on by some Latinos. There's not a lot of Asians in there, but maybe one of them has some chopsticks up his yin yang or whatever. So he's just running like wild in the prison.
Yeah, no, he is. He is. But we've seen this is a good point you bring up, because when the rubber meets the road, right, and people are in the clutch of things, you saw it's like, okay, we have a whole lot of, at least in California state, I'm going to call it out, Mexicans. Okay, we have a lot of Mexicans. That's group number one that are here illegally. Okay, when everything's just sort of chugging along and you can take our welfare money and go to the doctor for free, and you get your Section 8, you get your free housing and all this, like, okay, everything's great and peaceful, right? But when it's like, guess what? There's a new sheriff in town. Okay. President Trump, the feds. Like, there's a new sheriff in town. You guys are no longer, you're persona non grata, which you really were all along. Okay. You had business here. Party's up. Okay. The jig is up and the party's over. It's time for you to leave. We're going to escort you out. Oh, hell no. They take to the streets and it's like, let's light some cars on fire. Let's topple, it's like a.
And these aren't even illegals doing that. I mean, these are like people who are citizens.
No, but they're Mexicans. Well, you know who they are? They're anchor babies. They're anchor babies. They're products of illegals. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we're first generation. Yeah. Because,
Like
birthright.
Alex Padilla and Garcia.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Because, everything's a stepping stone. So they just go further and further. But when you ask them to leave, my point is, it's like, okay, we're going to turn your city upside down. Now, Trump sent in the National Guard. Gavin Newsom was against it, right? Gavin Newsom, Mr. Anarchy, Mr. I live on chaos and I want to rule over the ashes type of guy. He was going to let it go. He says, no, wait, I don't want the National Guard. You're not sending the National Guard here. That thing would have been the second summer of love, okay, when Antifa and BLM ran the streets for the entirety of 2020, which stemmed into finally the fall, when the cold weather drove them in and sort of curtailed their mayhem. But what ended up unfolding in here in Los Angeles in California, when the ICE deportation started, was complete mayhem. And we're gonna show you. And the only reason that thing went 2 weeks and no more was because the National Guard was brought in, because you gotta send in guys to bust heads and make people behave, because they're not going to behave of their own free will. I mean, it's look, the law is not on your side, Mr. Illegal immigrants. The facts are not on your side. Get the hell out. The fact that you even have the audacity and the gall to take to the streets as you're doing is mind-blowing. You have no rights here.
To set the table, we have a public official in Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who over the past few years have actively encouraged illegal migration into this community, have strained public services, have strained law enforcement, and really have offered generous benefits, not to American citizens, but to illegal immigrants to break the law, to come into our country, and to receive generous public assistance for having done so. What has that done? That has created an illegal immigration crisis, of course, facilitated by the policies of the Biden administration, and there is perhaps nowhere where that crisis has fallen harder than in the great city of Los Angeles.
Can you hold up the doll of yourself and show me where Newsom hurt you? Where did he hurt you? Yeah, that's good. There you go. You hear?
And mostly there.
Did he get your brain too? He got you. Well, he got you. He got you in the end too. I see.
He's hurt us all. Whether you're too, whether some people are too pea-brained to know it or not.
Other cities.
He hurts society. The guy's a sociopath.
California has the highest cost of living in the nation. The state's prices are 11% higher than the national average. We were actually out to dinner here in Nashville last night. We met a couple from California. They moved out of California because they couldn't afford the rent or even to buy a home and also start a family.
California is already leading in homelessness, leading in poverty, leading in addiction, leading in gas prices. It's also leading in income tax, theft, and budget deficits. Oh yeah, there's more. It's also leading in illegal immigration, leading in adult illiteracy, and leading in anti-business regulations. Gavin, you can't lead one state unless it's directly into the f***ing ground.
What are the features of somebody being a liberal? What would you say?
Their features are, I think they're frankly they're kind of godless.
And I think, good.
Yeah, they're kind of godless. They don't have any sort of higher power. They might say they're spiritual, but I'm not a spiritual type. I think you need to give it some form and structure and a name and some rules. And I don't think you can go be one with the tree and just be like your own God. So they might argue that point, but I see them as godless.
Because they rejected not only basic biology, but they rejected biblical biology as well. Any biblical things that are there that kind of have shaped society, like you're a male. God made Adam, right, as a male, then made a female, right?
Yeah.
So there was a male and a female. Yeah, there's a male and a female. Okay. And did he say, "Oh, let me throw some trans in there too"?
God? No, definitely not. No, so that's the thing. They buck the natural order so much that it's mind-blowing to me. When I think of liberal, I think of like they're messy and they're sloppy, and that is just like that's the outward countenance that they present, and that's half of what you see, because 100% of what's going on inside is just as sloppy and disheveled and angry, you know.
Yeah, they have
And
they have a disorganized soul in a way. Their soul is disorganized.
their
So
soul is
that's-
disorganized, because I'm going to say that. I'm going to venture
Yeah.
to say, I'll be bold and say, you know, I don't think they're at peace with themselves, and they can't be, because when you're so outside of the natural
Yeah.
order, your soul can't get any kind of respite. You can't get that sort of you
Right.
just can't get right with the universe, and it's not going to happen for you. It won't happen no matter how hard you try, no matter how many good deeds, or you know, I'm going to be a vegan or a vegetarian, or I'm going to, you know, help animals. It's fine. You're trying to make up and make yourself square with the universe, but it's not going to work out for you, because you're doing a lot wrong.
Well, U.S. history is that a bunch of white people came here and killed Indians. Is that kind of what it turned into?
Yeah, that's what they teach. It's like the self-loathing. They try to induce this artificial self-loathing instead of, it's like that your forefathers you know, are irredeemable white men. It's a patriarchy that needs to be needs to be brought down. But, oh my goodness, has it ever put a rift in society, you know? I don't think it's even a recoverable rift. It's like irreconcilable differences. It's just, you can't reconcile it.
Living in California under Newsom, and you got kids. Your kids are in private school.
Yes, I have 4 children, all under age 11.
Yeah.
And right now, only 2 of them are even in school. They're school aged. Only 2 of them. The other 2 are not of school age yet. They're both in private school and have been since late 2020, because I had to put the kibosh on sending them to public, because we can, you know, I can segue right into Gavin Newsom right there with the with just being able to send them to school, because I couldn't for the longest time. And California schools spent the longest time being closed. A lot of these teachers, I see them, I hear them, I listen to them. They're very political, and so they can't leave that at home. They can't leave that behind. They bring it into the classroom. It's like they can't just teach. They got to bring their opinions into it. Stay to the curriculum, but the curriculum's gone haywire. It's gone wonky, and I don't agree with it. So I don't know now what they would be teaching in biology. They're doing more sex ed, and I don't mind the sex ed if it's biology only. Now I see the books. I've seen the textbooks. It's like, okay, here's the millions of different kinds of sex you can engage in.
Yeah, and you guys had that battle in Huntington Beach about that too, right?
Yeah, even here.
Kind of an issue too with parents as your kids, you're giving your kids over to what, right? Who are these people?
Yeah, they're impressionable.
Now we see
little
the
minds.
teachers are like, I'm a trans teacher. Oh, well, are you going to leave that at home, or are you going to?
And how can you leave that at the door?
Work? Yeah. So it's like, no, I don't want that for my kids.
No. I think the teachers should have a dress code for themselves, right? Like I came from a time where the teachers still needed to have the men needed to have a tie.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to go in a 3-piece suit, but they needed to have a tie or a collared shirt. The women the female teachers were expected to wear dresses. Okay, maybe you don't need to go to that extent, but you know, nowadays I look at these teachers, and my line about it is like, wow, they look like they're about to clean out their garage.
California, you used to be a highly rated school. The schools were highly rated. I remember even going, like, we spent 2 years in Michigan, and they're like, oh, you're really ahead of us. Like, when I went to Michigan, I'm like, oh, I am?
That's interesting.
I didn't know that. So yeah, I think we had good schools at one point, right?
I think we had excellent schools. And I always say that. I said, growing up, I think, like, right away from elementary school all the way through high school. And I was the graduating class of 97. But all that way, I think it was a stellar education, like top notch. And I remember definitely through at least like into the early 90s. Like I'm just talking like probably it cut off at like 1992 or so, 93. Yes, the California school system was rated in the top 3. California schools were top notch. It was really the place to like settle if you were an American. Like it was like, oh my gosh, like great weather. You know, it was the land of low rent. I remember that. You can find it in song. You can find it in the old music, like place of low rents, cheap rent, beautiful blondes, you know, beautiful California girls. They sang about them, right? Happy-go-lucky people, surf culture, laid back. You could, you know, we were the breadbasket agriculturally of the entire United States. Everything was grown here. It was like farming, but you had world-class cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Good evening, Huntington Beach. My name is Nick Torres.
Newsom on his own is a destructive force, and it doesn't really matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. He's just pure destruction. He on his own is destroying California.
I agree.
He's destroying it on behalf of the Democratic Party. I don't even know what that is anymore, to be honest.
From direction from Gavin Newsom, they implemented a system-wide vaccine mandate, which basically required that to attend college in California after the spring 2021 semester, so starting fall 2021, you would have to get the vaccine. So I refused to take the vaccine, and I wasn't able to attend school basically for like 3 years. So just that alone had like obviously a huge impact on my life, you know, and my education and kind of my plans. So for that alone, Gavin Newsom will have my eternal ire. Like I think he's probably one of the worst politicians. I mean, not just worst politicians, but one of the worst people in the country. And I know there's other people too who have lost their jobs. Like I actually don't know many other people who had to withdraw from graduate school because, I mean, as you know, and many people are familiar, if you've been in upper level academic work and studies, they're pretty compliant. So I'm pretty sure most of my colleagues got the vax, but maybe there were some that didn't and had to withdraw too. I'm just not familiar. But yeah, many people were affected by his just the vaccine stuff. That doesn't even touch on his, you know, championing of, you know, basically like Israeli hate speech codes, like with AB 715 and some of these other issues. So yeah, he's pretty terrible. But here in California, Gavin Newsom, like we had the most draconian, severe forms of restrictions. And it really was like pressure from all levels to, you know, impose this on the people of California. And I think too, it's important for people to remember, like, I don't want to sound bitter because I have family members that got the vaccine and stuff like that. And, you know, it's kind of like, it's been 6 years, you know, and you kind of, it's like in the post-communist societies in Eastern Europe, you know, there has to be some degree of moving on, I guess, you know, as much as you want to, you know, scream at the sky.
The more shocking thing is, you know, people got rich off of this, right?
But yeah,
people got really sick rich. And one of the things that really upset me at the start of COVID is Newsom's deal with BYD to make masks, the Chinese bus company, to make masks. They had never made masks before. So he wanted N95 masks. There's plenty of mask manufacturers in the United States, but he cut a deal with the Chinese company to make masks. And he did an emergency order to make that happen. That wasn't cleared by the assembly or anybody. He just said, here's the emergency order. BYD is getting paid $1 billion to make masks. And they never really delivered them. And when they delivered them, they were defective.
He goes around and he acts like he's the leader of a sovereign country or something. I do remember there being a mask shortage being a huge issue when they were really pushing that at first, and people were really freaking out. And like, even though the masks we ended up knowing were total BS and they probably didn't need them. But at the time, though, I mean, maybe some actions of his where it's like, dude, you're a rogue governor and it's requiring like a national concerted response, and you're going out and like handing out contracts with state taxpayer dollars without the consent of the elected state legislature. I mean, yeah, this is like, he's done many things which have been in contravention of federal law, and I think that certainly exceed his bounds as a state official within the United States of America.
Now I'm living in California. What is my expectation about what the government will do for me in exchange for me giving up my tax dollars or sales tax dollars or whatever? I'm willing to play in this experiment with, okay, you're the governor, you're the executive, we have an assembly, we have kind of quasi representative government, and I'm going to play in that, right? So what do you kind of owe me in return? And you can talk about that.
We're not getting anything from it. And it's actually to a point now, like as we're talking, there's like massive third world violence in Mexico. And, you know, there's all these cartel violence and stuff going on. And people are like, oh my God, I mean, look what's going on in Mexico. Well, last summer you had that going on in the city of Los Angeles due to all the Mexicans that have been allowed into our state, which that happened prior to Newsom too. I mean, not pinning all that on him. I mean, and for the reason for mass immigration from Mexico into California, there's many culprits responsible, not just him, and it's a multi-decade problem.
Yeah, I think at his core, the man is a true sadist. He just he's just a diabolical character who wants to see it all. I think he just wants to see it collapse, genuinely.
I think he gets off on it. It's almost like, so it's like the Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. He just gets off on like things falling
the
apart.
Anarchy and the disorder.
Oh, he loves that. Yeah.
We live in a state where we have confiscatory taxes. We have crazy DEI bureaucrats running it into the ground, but it is the ultimate form of anarcho-tyranny. And I think the guy that coined that, you're probably familiar with him, he's a writer from the 90s, he was a columnist, his name's Sam Francis. And it's basically this concept of basically like, you know, the government will come and they'll take from the working citizens, and, you know, the law-abiding people will have to suffer all these injustices from the criminals and the malcontents that are allowed to roam around due to the social justice message put out by our elites. And that's kind of what you see in California at the end of the day, is like, you know, I just, not to ping pong, I lived abroad, so I lived in Central Eastern Europe, and people think, oh wow, you're in California, like you're hanging out with Kobe Bryant and there's, you know, supermodels everywhere. And it's like, well, actually, you know, it's not like that. It's very disorganized. These elites, these terrible bad actors, to hide and wedge themselves in our bureaucracy or various portions of our government. And it all kind of does fall back on the Democrat Party and Gavin Newsom, who I think is really, you know, their ultimate manifestation here in the state of California.
When I came over, it was 19, 20 million people in California. Well, they built 6-lane highways. So now when you go to 40 million people, you would know mathematically now you need 12-lane highways, meaning 6 lanes, and then on top of it, you build another freeway, right? So that you don't have traffic congestion. But that's not what they did.
Right.
Then when you have to, you know, when you go from 20 to 40 million people, then you need twice as many houses.
Yeah.
You need twice as many apartment buildings. You need twice as much of everything. Schools and everything. And they didn't. They didn't take care of them because the environmentalists thought that if we say no growth, then no one will come. But in the meantime, no one gives a shit about that. They come anyway. When the prices go up, the value of the apartment building goes up. So the unit that used to cost $600 now costs $3,000 a month. Yeah. But the salaries, the wages didn't go up accordingly. So now you have people that are economically homeless. They cannot afford paying for their rent anymore. So this is created by the politicians. And now remember what Einstein said, the people that created the problem cannot solve it. So they are doing the same thing over, which is another thing Einstein said. If you try to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity.
And it feels like that's what we're living.
So this is what we're dealing with here.
Talking to my son, I said, hey son, what is the most difficult thing about living in today's
California. He said, Dad, nobody can buy a home. Nobody can buy a home. I said, is that part of the quote unquote American dream? He goes, of course it is. He goes, of course it is. Get older, make some money, buy a home, own some property. He goes, it doesn't, you can't do it anymore.
Eric, what would you say your top three for like leaving California? And
I'd say one of the big ones was no matter how much, it seemed like no matter how much you started making, no matter how hard you're working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, 12 hours sometimes, rain or shine, sick or not, you're never going to make it to where you can afford the houses and do all this stuff. You know, you just live a little bit better lifestyle. And so many Californians live in debt. It's insane. You know, the big credit cards and they've got a boat and 2 cars and they're all in their mortgage and they put 10% down, and then the next time the big market crash comes along, which always happens, they couldn't sell their house for what they paid for it, and they've already paid money in their mortgage, and so they lose. And you no matter how hard you work, they always find a way to take it all.
Unless you were bigger.
Yeah.
Damco had no problem at all because they were big.
So it made it impossible to, you know, just look at it. Like, I keep working like this and killing myself for forever, and then I could get in a mortgage where the bank actually owns my house, and I'm paying them a fortune in interest, and you just never really own anything.
I used to live in the Palisades, and I left 3-4 years prior to the fire. And I had a lot of friends there. So when the fire occurred, it's like, oh, what happened to your house? It burned down. Wow, that's a big deal. Aren't you kind of angry? Because this feels very preventable. Like there's no water. And I used to hike by that little reservoir all the time, right? And there's no water in the hydrants, etc.
I know they were messing with the water. Letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while.
So it feels very preventable. I mean, I know it was a fire that was smoldering for a while, then the winds came or whatever. So there's that kind of incompetence that happened there. But the larger incompetence is you're not prepared for a big fire because you don't have any water, right? God, you must really hate Gavin Newsom.
You got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry, especially for your daughter. I have 4 kids losing the school.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be. Of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
To fill the hydrants. I would fill them up personally. You know that.
I literally.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see the. Do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
These Democrats, whether deliberately or accidentally, I don't know if they're that incapable, but it's like they don't build the infrastructure. Okay, so we know that the reservoirs that collect all the water was built for the population count of like the 1970s. When it's about 20 million people. We're now at 40 million people, and that's only documented, okay? We've got, again, in the millions who are completely undocumented and have no business here, but they're still taking up our resources, right? They're still taking up the water in there. And so these reservoirs were made for a population of 20 million. It's like we have enough precipitation. We have enough of a snowpack.
Yeah, it's just
snowfall.
total mismanagement, right?
It's just total mismanagement.
I
It's
mean,
not
I'm
being
like
saved.
the LA
It's going
I'm
out
the
into
LA
the
River-
Pacific
I'm
Ocean.
the LA River guy, right? It's like total mismanagement. So then, then I'll say, if you think conspiracy, go to incompetence first and run that for a while. And then you discover it's more incompetence and self-interest than it is conspiracy. It's just people who have a job, a state job, or they're elected to office, and they just don't know what they're doing, but they're okay because they have their position or job or whatever. They don't really care. They don't really care.
Yeah, well, they sure don't. I mean, Gavin Newsom, definitely does not care.
The city of Los Angeles and the state of California cannot clean up the Eaton and Palisades fires. And I actually had to do an oral history project where I talked to someone whose home was burnt down in Altadena. His home was cleared out by the Army Corps of Engineers.
So that's kind of a big deal. So when I talked to the guy about it, I said, God, you must really hate Gavin Newsom. And he said, why? He said, why would I hate him? I said, because you don't have a house? Like, you lost your house, bro. Like, there's no house there anymore. He goes, well, that wasn't necessarily his fault. Oh, well, was it Amir Bass's fault? No, it wasn't her fault either. Things just happened, and it was a variety of events that came together, and that's how all the houses got burned down.
It is criminal negligence.
Yes.
Do the mayor and the governor give a damn about you?
No. Absolutely.
Hell no.
No.
I mean, that's clear.
Yeah.
And then I was like, because I used to live in that neighborhood. So you have a lot of, like, rich, white, liberals, etc. Rules for thee, but not for me. Rules for thee, but not for me. And that's kind of what is there. And it's like, oh my God, there's so many disenfranchised people in California. They can barely make ends meet. And then I would say, well, write a check. Go write them a check. And then you can take care of them.
I put styling gel in my hair after showering. My hair is one of my greatest assets. It's actually my only asset. I can't even read a menu. I'm that dumb.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel.
But as long as his hair is okay and his teeth are white, it's not going to really matter it's really not going to matter what he does. That's what it's kind of down to,
Unfortunately.
If he had, can you imagine him with hair loss, that he's a bald guy with crooked teeth? He wouldn't last a second.
No.
He wouldn't last a second.
No, he wouldn't. No, that's the thing. So that's like a whole other commentary on like just how much, how people can be snowed and swayed on foolishness, on stuff that doesn't matter. Because does he have it upstairs?
No, he even admits that he's dumb. So he's
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, no, exactly. As he's crossing his legs and laughing.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy.
Mr. Speaker, the CEO of the California High-Speed Rail Authority was recently arrested and placed on leave. So the rail authority is now on to its 6th CEO. That means there have been 6 more CEOs than there have been passengers, because of course there haven't been any passengers. Despite spending $17 billion over 17 years, there has been no track laid. Nevertheless, the governor recently, with quite a bit of hoopla, held an event in Kern County to celebrate the fact that a single railhead has now been completed. And the governor crowed that they are now entering the track-laying phase, whatever that might mean. Mr. Speaker, it is time for the governor to acknowledge what the U.S. Department of Transportation did in a recent compliance review, that this project has no viable path forward. Thankfully, in the House of Representatives, following a bill I introduced to this effect, there was a bipartisan vote to cut off all further federal funding for high-speed rail. There is no viable path forward for the project, and I do believe when we have a new governor in the state, the project will finally be wound down. But taxpayers also deserve answers on where all of this money has gone. And curiously, as we are seeing new scrutiny to answer that question as to where the money is going, the governor is pushing a bill in the legislature to keep records of the project secret, to create new exceptions to our public records laws that specifically apply to high-speed rail. Now that raises the question, I wonder what he doesn't want the public to see.
Getting money to do these things isn't really to do them, it's just to get the money in their hands.
Yeah, so the budget keeps going up, but
Charging the taxpayer.
The services
Go down.
don't improve, they get worse.
They get
right?
worse, and the taxpayer pays for it.
Well,
Would
like
you say
that-
that? Would you say that Newsom has a heavy hand in all that?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We thought Moonbeams was bad, but he's nothing compared to
I
Gavin.
guarantee if they dig deep enough, they'll find Minnesota level fraud in California too.
Oh.
I mean, there's just no question about it. 'Cause
Minnesota's going to look like a great place compared to California.
the money disappears and can't ever be found for so many things. Like, okay, the 10 cents for every bottle and 10 cents for the one kind and 5 cents for the other. They tried to do an audit to find where that money goes. Privately, people have done it, and there is no records kept aware. And you may not think like, well, it's only a nickel or a dime. Times a billion, it's a lot. And they have no idea where that money goes.
They're criminals. They CSU criminals.
Yeah. Newsom wants to do the Maui plan. What do you think the Maui locals think of the Maui plan? Yeah. I'm sorry, there aren't any more locals living there anymore. They all had to leave town. Do you think the people of the Palisades or Altadena are going to be consulted about how their areas are reimagined by Newsom and Bass?
No. They want to build low-income housing in Palisades.
This is a conspiracy.
No. It'll be more like the chairman Maui plan.
They want to get what they want and then throw them away.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most pathetic and despicable things I've seen was when Karen Bass, in order to shift the blame and culpability from herself, wiped it on the fire chief and threw her under the bus for speaking the truth about how the department had been defunded and were without resources. They didn't even have water. Now Gavin has asked for $40 billion of federal dollars to do whatever he has in mind. Yeah. Why would we trust him with that kind of funding? See, along with that federal money should come a federal investigation into what.
Like how Gavin Newsom is a complete failure, and I don't understand for the life of me how people follow him and he can still have support. But that just goes to show, like, no matter how maniacal.
He's running for president. He's number one position.
Yeah. Yes, he's a aspiring presidential candidate.
But to me, once you join the team, you're going to defend the team all the way to the end. You're not going to switch the team. You're going to stay. That's your team. That's your leader. And whether you're bright or you're not, that's how humans work. They're going to follow the leader.
And they're going to stay the course. They're going to stay the course that they signed up for.
Yeah. It will return to the Golden State. And I don't know, what's your feeling about it? I feel it's over.
Yeah, I don't know if it's recoverable. Like, I don't think you can course correct at this juncture.
Along the way, did you have moments where you go, God, what the hell did we do? Let's get back to California?
No, I never have.
I say
Yeah,
it, but I don't mean
I mean,
like the weather.
Yeah, I kind of do. But at the same time, I kind of thought the same thing when I moved to Northern California, and in no time, I the greatest place I ever lived there for a while because of the things I like to do.
Right.
And then when they started closing all that, then that place had very little interest for me anymore.
Okay, that's enough, right?
Yeah, no, that is the $1 million question of when do you say when? When does any one of us say when? We've had enough. I've had my fill. I just need to get out of Dodge because this is a losing battle.
My battle, Gavin Newsom, isn't over. It's not over. You won me selling my property to other suckers coming to California. You won that. But I'm collecting my profit going to other places to live. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to Vietnam. I'm going to Tennessee. I'm going to live everywhere else in California for the rest of my life. You won't see any sales tax dollars from me at all. That's all gone. That's over. I'm taking a detour in life. Listen up, Sparkle Ken. You goddamn son of a bitch. Gavin Newsom. Patrick Bateman. See that? Ron John, that's Florida. See that? That's Rip Curl, Vietnam. That's where I'm headed. But I'll tell you one place you're never headed. You're never headed to the White House. If you're headed anywhere, you're headed to prison for all the fraud you committed. That's what's going to happen to you. As far as what's going to happen to me, I'm going to go and live a better life. Because you ruined my life. And you ruined the life of my children. Fuck you. My family founded this country and they fought in the Revolutionary War. They, like many others, came to California, headed west, looking for a better life. And it was for a while, but then it wasn't. You ruined California, and now you want to be president. And I can tell you this, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure that never happens. Because you may have ruined California, you're not going to ruin the United States.